The iconic Mafia trilogy The Godfather was one of, if not the first time, the public had been given insight into the then mysterious world of the Mafia. Although it's a fictional story, many events and characters parallel real-life events and people. In Part 1, we shared some of the most rare and insightful stories that inspired these iconic films, and so, here are even more unbelievable real-life stories that very few have learned and uncovered. There is a lot of debate on whether Puzo wrote The Godfather from pure research or he was in contact with insiders that provided him with such detailed insight into the world of the Mafia, as at that time they were still fairly secretive from the public. In the novel he included many historical figures that were left out of the movie. The book featured the real-life Al Capone as an associate of Salvatore Maranzano, who called on to help during the Olive Oil War of 1933. In 1933, the repeal of Prohibition had dealt a huge blow to the Corleone family operations, but Vito Corleone had taken his precautions. He sent emissaries to the Don who controlled all the gambling activities of Manhattan, Salvatore Maranzano, a big shot of New York who had firm control in the crime underworld. The Corleone emissaries proposed to Maranzano an equal partnership deal beneficial to both parties. Vito Corleone, with his organization, his police and political contacts, could give him the necessary strength to expand his operations further and into new territories, such as in Brooklyn and the Bronx. But Maranzano rejected the Corleone offer, therefore setting off the Great War of 1933, which would ultimately change the whole structure of the underworld in New York City. Salvatore Maranzano had a powerful organization with a plethora of strong enforcers that obeyed his every command. He also had a friendship with Al Capone in Chicago, and had maintained a good relationship with the Tattaglia family, which controlled prostitution in the city, and what there was of the thin drug traffic at that time. Maranzano sent a call to Capone for his two best gunmen to come to New York to assassinate Vito Corleone. But the Corleone family also had friends and intelligence in Chicago, who relayed the news that the two gunmen were arriving by train. So Luca Brasi and his men intercepted the Chicago soldiers at the railroad station and brought them to a warehouse near the docks and hacked them to pieces. A few days later in Chicago, Capone received a message from Vito which read, "You know now how I deal with enemies. Why does a Neapolitan interfere in a quarrel between two Sicilians? If you wish me to consider you as a friend, I owe you a service which I will pay on demand. A man like yourself must know how much more profitable it is to have a friend who, instead of calling on you for help, takes care of his own affairs and stands ever ready to help you in some future time of trouble. If you do not wish my friendship, so be it. But then I must tell you that the climate in this city is damp, unhealthy for Neapolitans, and you are advised never to visit it." And shortly after, the Capone sent back word that they would not interfere anymore. The odds were now equal, and Vito Corleone had earned an enormous amount of respect throughout the United States underworld with his humiliation of Capone. In The Godfather, we meet the heads of the 5 families during the meeting held to end the war. The 5 families in The Godfather were the Corleone family headed by Vito Corleone, the Tattaglia, Barzini, Cuneo and Strachey crime families. These 5 families are indeed based on the real 5 crime families of New York, which were the Genovese, Gambino, Lucchese, Colombo and Bonanno crime families. Each boss and his family draw various characteristics from the real-life New York families, however there don't seem to be any direct associations between one family and the other. For example, the Tattaglia family in The Godfather and the real-life Gambino family were both known for their business in prostitution. However, boss Philip Tattaglia is said to be based more on Tommy Lucchese than on a Gambino boss or family member. Hyman Roth is introduced in The Godfather Part 2, and is based on Meyer Lansky, also known as the mob's accountant. His partnership with Don Vito mimics that of the relationship between that Meyer Lansky had with Lucky Luciano and Frank Costello. Lansky was a financial genius and is instrumental in aiding the formation of National Crime Syndicate in the United States.
Hyman Roth always makes money for his partners.
Both in real life and in The Godfather, many big names among the families greatly valued his counsel. Just as Roth's real-life counterpart realized the need for Bugsy Siegel's execution, Lansky understood that he must agree to the assassination and not turn against the mob.
Michael, we're bigger than U.S. Steel.
The line "we're bigger than U.S. Steel," stated by Roth in the film, is attributed to Lansky. However, while Roth was shot by a Corleone soldier, Lansky lived a long life in South Florida. Roth's liaison to the Mafia, Johnny Ola, was also based on Lansky's liaison, named Vincent Ello. Emilio Barzini, played by actor Richard Conte, was based on notorious mobster Vito Genovese. Not one to hold on to all the principles of Cosa Nostra, the non-traditionalist mobster openly defied some of the major mafia laws, from engaging in the heroin and cocaine trade, ordering hits on other bosses, such as the hit he put on the boss of the Luciano crime family, Frank Costello. Emilio Barzini was less brutal and more eloquent than Vito Genovese, but his character influence is most certainly there. Both Barzini and his real-life counterpart shared a mercenary nature and arrogance, in which led him truly believe that he was the boss of all bosses. Whereas other dons ruled by honoring the set-out codes of Cosa Nostra, Barzini and Genovese both decided to defy these principles and preferred to do things their own way. Ultimately, the culture they were steering away from was holding the fabric of their families together, and their refusal to abide by it led to their downfall. Many have attributed the inspiration for the character Joey Zasa to infamous mobster John Gotti. While Gotti was followed heavily by mainstream media at the time that the Part 3 was being developed, it seems, however, the true inspiration for Zasa was actually Joseph Colombo. Both men created organizations designed to highlight the positive aspects of the Italian-American community. In fact, Colombo's Italian-American Civil Rights League succeeded in ensuring that Paramount Pictures did not use the word mafia in the series that would mimic his actions on screen. In addition, both were also assassinated during their own organization's unity rallies.
Zaza!
Don Corleone, I am honored and grateful that you have invited me to your home on the wedding day of your daughter. Don?
Michael?
Don Corleone.
That man over there is talking to himself.
Coppola cast Lenny Montana as Luca Brasi after Joe Colombo visited the set. Montana was the gangster's actual bodyguard. However, like we discussed in Part 1, the former pro wrestler was so nervous about acting in a scene with Brando that he botched every take, and the director added a snippet of caught footage of Montana rehearsing his lines to make it seem like Luca was nervous about taking up the Godfather's time on the day of his daughter's wedding. Brasi is the guy who held a gun to a band leader's head while Vito Corleone assured him that either his brains or his signature would be on a contract releasing Johnny Fontane from fronting the band. In real life, it was Willie Moretti. Willie Moretti was reportedly the friend that got Sinatra out of his bad contract with bandleader Tommy Dorsey. This is his most direct connection with character Luca Brasi, who does the same for Johnny Fontane. In Part 3 we discuss and unveil even more hidden inspirations and events that intertwine with the Godfather trilogy, and go a bit more in depth on some of the most impactful events that transpired and which led to the rise of Don Vito Corleone and much more. So thank you for watching and stay tuned for Part 3. And please make sure to subscribe and join us on our official Instagram page where we indulge in everything Mafia.